There are $16 trillion worth of metal sitting on the ocean floor right now, not buried under rock, not locked in a vault, just lying there, scattered across the seabed like gravel in a parking lot. Cobalt, nickel, manganese, copper, the exact metals inside your phone, your car battery, your laptop. But here is what almost nobody knows. The rights to mine these metals are not controlled by the United States, China, or any major power. They are controlled by 70 employees working in a small office building in Kingston, Jamaica, the International Seabed Authority. You have never heard of them, but they control access to the largest mineral deposit in human history. And right now, they are deciding who gets to own the future. The ocean floor covers 70% of the planet. For decades, it was considered worthless, too deep, too dark, too expensive. Then, in the 1970s, scientists aboard a research vessel dragged a net across the Pacific seabed and pulled up something extraordinary. Fist-sized rocks, black, lumpy, and heavy. They looked like burnt potatoes, but when geologists cracked them open, they found something that would change everything. These rocks, called polymetallic nodules, contain 30% manganese, 1.3% nickel, 1.1% copper, and 0.2% cobalt. Now compare that to a cobalt mine on land. The richest cobalt deposits on Earth, located in the Democratic Republic of Congo, contain less than 0.1% cobalt. That means ocean floor nodules are 10 times richer than the best mines on land. And unlike terrestrial ore, which requires drilling, blasting, crushing, and chemical processing, these nodules just sit on the surface of the seabed. You could pick them up with your hands. If you could survive 4,000 meters underwater, companies are now building machines to do exactly that. And the race to control the ocean floor has already begun. If you want to mine the ocean floor, you cannot just show up with a ship and start digging. You need permission, but not from a government. You apply to the ISA. This organization was created in 1994 under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The treaty declared that the deep seabed, anything beyond 200 nautical miles from any coastline, is the common heritage of mankind. No country can claim it. No corporation can own it. Instead, the ISA acts as the landlord, and they have been handing out keys. In the past 10 years, the ISA has issued 31 exploration licenses. Each license grants exclusive rights to a 75,000 square kilometer zone. That is the size of Austria. China holds 5 licenses. That is 16% of all contracts, more than any other nation. Russia has 3. France, Germany, the UK, Japan, South Korea, and India each have at least 1. The United States has 0. Not because American companies are not interested, not because the US lacks the technology, but because the United States never ratified the treaty that created the ISA. This means American companies are legally barred from applying. They are locked out of $16 trillion in resources because of a treaty signed 3 decades ago that Congress refused to approve. Meanwhile, China is not waiting. One of their state-owned contractors has been testing a prototype mining machine in the Pacific since 2015. It is the size of a combine harvester. It weighs 300 tons. It drives across the ocean floor on tank treads, using rotating drums to scoop nodules off the bottom. A thick hose pumps the rocks up 4,000 meters to a surface ship. It is deep sea strip mining, and it works. Mining at 4,000 meters depth is not like offshore oil drilling. The pressure at that depth is 400 atmospheres, enough to crush a car into a cube. The water temperature is at 2 degrees Celsius, pitch black, no GPS signal, no radio communication. The mining machines must operate autonomously, navigating by sonar, with a several-second delay for every command sent from the surface. The nodule collector is lowered to the seabed on a steel cable as thick as your arm. Once on the bottom, it is powered by an electrical umbilical cord stretching 4 kilometers to the ship above. As it moves, it stirs up sediment, decades of undisturbed ocean floor dust suddenly thrown into suspension. This creates a sediment plume. In 2023, the Metals Company, a Canadian firm backed by investors and the island nation of Nauru, ran a test in the Pacific. They deployed their prototype collector for 2 weeks. Satellite imagery captured the sediment plume drifting over 150 kilometers. It was visible from space. When marine biologists surveyed the area months later, they found dead glass sponges. These organisms can live for 10,000 years. Some of the sponges they found had been alive since the last ice age. Now they were buried under a layer of fine sediment, suffocated. The company called the test a success. Environmental groups called it proof that deep-sea mining will destroy ecosystems we do not even understand yet. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The world needs these metals. Global demand for cobalt is expected to triple by 2030. Nickel demand will quadruple. There is not enough supply on land to meet it. And the main source of cobalt today is the Democratic Republic of Congo, where over 40,000 children work in artisanal mines, digging with hand tools in tunnels that collapse regularly. In 2022 alone, at least 60 miners died in tunnel collapses in Congolese cobalt mines. So the question is not whether deep-sea mining is clean. The question is whether it is less destructive than the alternative. For years, the ISA debated regulations. How much should companies pay in royalties? What environmental protections should exist? Who enforces the rules? The debates dragged on. Then, in 2021, a tiny island nation triggered a legal loophole that changed everything. Nauru, population 12,000, total land area 8 square miles. They are one of the smallest countries on Earth, but they are also a member of the ISA. And in July 2021, Nauru invoked something called the 2-year rule. This is a clause buried in the ISA treaty. It states that if any member nation formally requests it, the ISA must finalize mining regulations within 24 months. If they fail to meet that deadline, companies can apply for mining permits anyway, and the ISA must process them under whatever interim rules exist. Nauru made the request on behalf of the Metals Company, which had signed a sponsorship deal with the island government. The deadline passed in July 2023. The regulations are still not finished, but the loophole is now open. The Metals Company has already submitted a formal application for a commercial mining license. If approved, they will become the first company in history to mine the deep ocean for profit. Their target is the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a massive region between Hawaii and Mexico. This single area contains more nickel than all known land reserves combined, more cobalt than the world will use in the next 100 years. China is watching. Their contractors have not submitted applications yet, but their machines are ready. Their data is complete. The moment the Metals Company gets approved, China will flood the ISA with permit requests. Europe is split. France and Germany want a temporary ban on all deep-sea mining until more research is done. The UK opposes the ban, arguing it would hand control of critical resources to China. Small island nations like Nauru see this as their only economic option. They have no oil, no minerals, no agriculture. Licensing their seabed is the only leverage they have. For Nauru, signing the deal with the Metals Company brought in millions of dollars. For context, their entire national budget is $30 million per year. This is existential for them. The ISA is now trapped. If they approve mining, they risk environmental disaster and global backlash. If they reject applications, companies will sue under international law and probably win. If they delay further, they lose all credibility as a regulatory body. If deep-sea mining starts, the money does not work like normal mining. Under ISA rules, no company owns the nodules. They are contractors. They pay a royalty to the ISA, which is supposed to be shared with all member nations under the Common Heritage Principle. The proposed royalty rate is between 2 and 12% of revenue, depending on profitability. The metals company estimates their operation will generate $1 billion per year. At 10%, that is $100 million flowing into the ISA fund annually. In theory, that money gets distributed to 168 countries. In practice, nobody knows how. The ISA has no enforcement arm, no auditors, no navy. If a mining company underreports its revenue or mines outside its license zone 4,000 meters underwater, who is going to stop them? But some analysts believe the real winners will not be the mining companies. It will be the equipment manufacturers, the firms building the underwater robots, the surface processing ships, the AI navigation systems. Right now, the leaders in subsea robotics are not American. They are Chinese and Norwegian. China has invested over $1 billion in deep-sea technology in the past decade. Norway, leveraging its offshore oil expertise, is building the next generation of autonomous underwater vehicles. The United States, despite having the world's most advanced navy and submersible technology, cannot compete in this market. Without ISA membership, American companies can only participate as subcontractors to foreign license holders. This is a strategic vulnerability. If China ends up controlling 30% of seabed mining licenses and Norway builds half the equipment, the U.S. will be forced to buy battery metals from the same foreign supply chain it is desperately trying to avoid. The entire energy transition, the move to electric vehicles and renewable power, will depend on metals mined by Chinese robots and processed on Chinese ships. The ocean floor is the last place on Earth that does not belong to anyone. No borders, no armies, just the ISA and a treaty written before the internet existed. But that is changing fast. In 2022, China announced plans to build a permanent deep-sea mining base on the ocean floor. Not a temporary drilling rig, a permanent installation, underwater modules, robotic repair stations, autonomous drones that shuttle nodules to the surface without human intervention. If successful, it would be the first human infrastructure ever built on the abyssal plain. It would also set a precedent. Once infrastructure is in place, it becomes almost impossible to regulate. The ISA has no satellites tracking subsea activity. They have no inspectors who can operate at 4,000 meters depth. Enforcement relies entirely on companies self-reporting their activities. There is no audit, no verification. The next 5 years will decide whether the ocean floor remains a shared resource or becomes the next geopolitical battleground. The metals are already there. The machines are being built. The permits are being drafted. And most people have no idea this is happening. But the decisions being made right now in a modest office building in Kingston, Jamaica, will determine the future of your phone, your car, and the energy grid that powers your life. So the next time you charge your electric vehicle or upgrade your smartphone, ask yourself this: where did the cobalt come from? Was it a child digging in a collapsing mine in Congo? Or was it a robot vacuuming rocks off the ocean floor 4 kilometers underwater, regulated by 70 people in Jamaica that nobody elected? Because in 5 years, you will not know the difference. And by then, it will be too late to decide whether we made the right choice. The ocean floor is being claimed right now, not by governments, not by voters, by whoever files the paperwork first.